Well, let me.
Yeah. Okay, it's being recorded. So do I talk now? This is weird. I'm still sure I didn't agree to be an host. I swear I didn't. Anyways, I just want to say first of all, a big massive thank you to Joanne for sorting everything out, and to Kerry for doing all the techie things. Apparently, I'm your host for today. I don't know how that came about, but yeah, I'm your host for today. Never done this before. Just gonna wing it like everything else in life. You'll be fine. So, for those of you who don't know these beautiful souls on the screen, I'm going to ask each and every one in turn just to give a quick introduction of themselves. Me, I am Emma, and a bit of my background is anything soul is my thing, and I get really excited, and I'm trying not to be excited because I want to be professional for a change. But I woke up about 8 years ago, probably. I don't know. I don't even know how long anymore. And it was very apparent from the start that I could see past lives. In group meditations, everybody was seeing beautiful things, rainbows, unicorns, and I was seeing all these horrible things and feeling, and yeah, and I didn't understand why. But anyways, to cut a long story short, that progressed to soul retrieval and everything connected to soul. It's kind of who I am. It's not something I can switch off anymore, and I wouldn't want it to be switched off. So that's basically my background, and I am here. I've been sent here to clear up my mess from previous lives and to help the collective on a soul level. And that's basically why I'm here. It's a brief outline of who I am, like soul. I love soul. So, beautiful Kerry, I can see your face is on the big screen in front of me. Beautiful Kerry, would you like to introduce yourself?
There we go. I'm unmuted. What did I say? My name's Kerry. I live in Scotland. What do I say? I'm little. I'm full of personality. Maybe sometimes it can be a bit annoying, like a annoying kid sometimes. But I mean it with love. So yeah, what else can I say? I like art. I paint. And I like special little machines called the Healy. So yeah, that's me. Thanks, Emma.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And beautiful Dan, who I had the pleasure of meeting last year for the first time in my life, and you just feel so family to me. Would you like to tell everybody who you are? Just a brief introduction. No, that's fine if you don't. If you don't, that's fine. Absolutely fine. I get it. This is like way out of my comfort zone. Joanne, it's your fault.
Done.
Hi everybody. My name's Dan. I hope what I'm saying is lip sync with my video, because Thomas and I are in the same room and blah blah blah. So I suppose my, let's call it, weird journey started about 5 years ago with a bit of a health crisis, and then I got into energy healing and Alexander technique, and ended up training in Alexander technique for 3 years. So I do some energy healing, and I also met Thomas about 3 years ago during the lockdowns, and we were learning Tantra together, and yeah, really hit it off. And we've ended up like forming this alchemy productions together. So we run guided meditations and cacao ceremonies and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's it, pretty much. The only other thing I would say is that I've found the last 5 years totally amazing. It's been wonderful, and I wouldn't swap it for anything in the world. But I've come from a very kind of like sciencey engineering background, so it's been a really rough ride, and I still haven't figured out how to like reconcile. It's sometimes two very different worldviews, so that's still a work in progress. So these conversations, I think, will be very helpful for me to kind of see other people's perspectives and see how that fits in to how I currently see the universe, or don't. So that's it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. And next, who I see on my screen is the beautiful Tomaz. Who again, I was very fortunate to meet last year in August. And yeah, I am just going to say you totally blew me away. And you know why. On the session I had with her, yeah, maybe that's a conversation for another day. Amazing. So would you like to introduce yourself to these beautiful souls here who are watching? And
Thank
they're
you
going
so
to
much.
learn, hopefully.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, beautiful Joanne, because none of us probably would be here without Joanne pulling the magical strings and bringing us all together.
Yes.
Well, my journey started when I realized that I was a cosmic accident at a very young age. I keep saying to my mom, I'm a cosmic accident, and she still doesn't like it. I have been in the field, I was interested or have been interested in the field of consciousness for a very, very long time. Consciousness and anything to do with what can't be explained by the rational mind. And this is how I got to get involved a long time ago into Ayurveda, traditional Ayurvedic medicine, and everything surrounding the Vedic sciences, which links to consciousness and everything else with it. Vedic astrology, I never really felt I could connect with Western astrology for some reason, obvious reasons. Vedic astrology was like, okay, yes, that makes perfect sense. And in the last couple of years, I left my busy clinic in central London, and I felt called to move to the remote countryside. And here we are in the middle of Cornwall somewhere, where it's really rainy and windy and cold, but we love the isolation. We live on the farm with the horses and the goats and the sheep. And it's been an incredible, really incredible, challenging, but an incredible journey. And I felt very drawn to helping people with understanding entities, energies, and earthbound spirits, and anything that is linked to that. Anything with dragons, anything linked with crystals. I've got an entire museum of crystals around me. I love my crystals. So other than that, I am working with sacred plant medicine as well. And like together with Dan, we have formed Alchemy Productions, and we run the regular meditation circles and everything that comes with it. Enough of me. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, I know the beautiful Taylor is here, but I'm not touching my screen because once I start pressing things, it's game over. So even though I can't see you, Taylor, would you please like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Emma. Thanks everyone for being
There you
here.
are. I see you now.
And thank you guys all for, sharing a little piece of yourself. I know it's only like a little portion, but it means a lot that you guys are able to, express that, because I think one of the best parts about this group is we're all, a little bit similar, but also a little bit different. And there is a lot of different parts of us that we can connect with, and a lot of different parts of us that we can learn too. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. Oh my gosh. So for me, it was highly sensitive. That would be a lot of my journey, starting as a child to dream space, ADHD, all those things that come with not being sure how to ground or connect or have boundaries. And, as a child, of course, it's harder harder to learn those things. So most of my journey has been learning how to deal with being very sensitive, feeling other people's stuff, not only in an emotional body, but also in my physical body. So if someone is upset, I can physically feel it. I'll physically shake, or I'll physically have that response as well. So one of the most important things has been spiritual hygiene for me, which has taken me a really long time to get to the point where I feel comfortable with it, because there was a lot of fear. So a lot of my journey has also been pushing through fear of the unknown, fear of what I've seen in my sleep space, fear of what people think about me, fear if something's wrong with me. So the past, I'd say 5 years, it turned into really expanding through my upper chakras. And I forgot about my lower. I forgot to be human. I forgot to enjoy this. I forgot. And so the past 2 years to this past year has been, okay, I'm here, I'm in this body. How can I balance these two versions of me out? How can I be, yes, sensitive, whatever, it doesn't even matter, but how can I also assist the collective, but also try to be here, try to exist. So that's my journey in a little nutshell. But yeah, boundaries and spiritual hygiene have played a huge role in my past couple of years and getting to where I am now, which is still not perfect, but I think that we can't be so hard on ourselves, but ritual and routine has also saved me. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, and Tomaz is absolutely right, I wouldn't be sat here doing this without Joanne. I wouldn't be where I am on a universal level if it wasn't for Joanne, because she is my sister, my confidant. She's my universe, basically, and she reminds me of things. She kicks my arse, and everybody needs somebody that connection to help remember things, and she's done so much. So beautiful, Joanne. Go on, go for it. Go on.
You started me crying already. What are we, like 5 minutes in?
I love you.
I love you too.
So much.
I'm just really honored to share this space with you all. You all have a massive piece of my heart, and I want you to know that. Okay, enough of the soppy stuff. I'm Joanne. I am I have Ascension, evolution, whatever that is. I basically just share my journey from awakening as we go along. I work with energy. Energy is everything. So everything to me is energetic. I use my hands a lot when I speak also. So everything to me is energetic. I can tune into the energy of anything, really. And a big part of my journey is clearing, density of people, just put it that way. Sharing myself. I'm just me. I think it's really important that in this time where we're all in, we've had this massive spiritual awakening happen maybe 3 years ago now. A lot of people waking up. I feel it. Goosebumps. And then I feel another big awakening happening this year as well. So the more people that can step up to the plate and can share their experience to reach their hand out to help other people, the better. And I think that me and Emma, this came about because me and Emma have a lot of conversations about a lot of things. That if there were, doctors and stuff listening in, would probably be carted away for. Let's be honest. But
definitely,
we have some really cool conversations, don't we, Emma? And
the best.
Emma really just wanted to express. I'm talking for you, Emma, sorry. The conversation we had was basically whereby we're all different on this journey, and we all see things differently, we all hear things differently. It's all about how we interpret things. Like, I interpret energy, but just because I have that interpretation of it, it doesn't mean it's right. It's just my interpretation of what it is, and I share that. So I don't expect, I think we're away from this guru shmuru and I must listen to this person because they say that I have to do, question everything, And a big part of putting this beautiful heart-led group together, because I know each one of these souls, and each one of these souls are here because they're heart-led. And they have big jobs to do with the collective. They will absolutely play themselves down. But that says a lot for each and every one of them. So yeah, these conversations are really just about having everybody's kind of view and interpretation on what that means, because when we then share that with others and we're not afraid to share our truth and our perspective, then allows other people to see that there are so many other perspectives. And it, you know, I hope it gives other people confidence to step into who they are and to see that there is actually no right or no wrong. We shouldn't be following anyone apart from ourselves, right? We should get to our truth. But by having open conversations like this with people who have the same heart and the same drive, then it can really open up and we can all learn from each other. So that wasn't anything about me. It was a little bit about the group that's come here together. But I'm going to shut up now. Thanks, Em. I love you.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm very organized today, which is unheard of for me. So I have got a list. See, I did it. It's 3:30 this morning of things I'm going to stick to. I'm going to be disciplined. So like Joanne said, I wanted this method in my madness actually as well, because I wanted to share what I think and what I feel, because it's going to be different for every single person, because my experiences and my past lives are going to be totally different to everybody else's, because right here, right now, I am me. Nobody else will ever be me right here, right now. It's me. So I wanted to give people the opportunity to take something from everybody, because I've got a feeling that we're going to have like totally different opinions, experiences, just because of who we are on a soul level. Some of us might be really old souls, which have reincarnated for a long, long time. Some of us might be newer souls, which makes it slightly harder to understand, if that makes sense, because you may not have experienced so many past lives and so many lessons. I'm going to try and explain my way, and this is called Emma's Idiot Guide. It's the idiot guide for me. Don't look at me like that. It's the idiot guide for me, and I'm not offended by that word, because I really wish I had, you know, like a dummy guide which told me, because we have to learn these things for ourselves, and we have to journey through what we feel is right for our soul. We have to find it ourselves. So I've created this list, Emma's Idiot Guide, and it's awesome. I love it. I hope nobody is offended by the word idiot. Please don't be, because that's for me, my idiot guide, not for anybody else. It's for me. So here we go. I'm going to start at the very basics. Everything I talk about, like I said, is just my perception, my experiences, and yours will be different. So for those that are wondering, it might sound like a stupid question, but what is your soul? To me, your soul is a collaboration of everything you've ever been, everything you are now, and everything you ever will be. When I see a soul, I can see it energetically, or I'll see it as a person in a past life. But a soul to me is your life essence, it's your life force, it's your driving force when we are you. Your soul is inside you. We got this human body, but your soul is inside you. That's your driving force. You couldn't live without the soul. You just couldn't. So that's my explanation as to what your soul is. It is infinite. You cannot destroy it. Never, ever, ever. You can't destroy your soul. It's energy. is a consciousness. And how can I explain this? A soul has no beginning and no end because it is infinite. It's like space dust, beautifulness, different colors. Each soul is unique to me. They look different, they feel different, they vibrate different. No two souls are ever, ever, ever exactly the same. Not in my experience. What else can I say about seeing the souls? I see the soul signatures. So when I'm doing soul retrieval work, I know which soul piece to take. I'm just going to mention something really quick because I don't want to confuse people. When I say soul signature, when we are created, whether you think we're created by a consciousness, Allah, God, you know, whatever your religion is, doesn't matter, but we're created by something, you know, we understand is our creator. So when you're first created, you have a soul, obviously. And this, your very first creation, when you were born, will have a certain soul signature. I got major goosebumps, excuse me. So you have a main signature, and this main signature is the beginning of your existence. With that soul signature, you can connect into everything, and I mean everything. Once you know your soul signature, stop. I'm getting electrocuted. You can connect into everything with your main. I don't use the proper words. I don't know. Is it oversoul, monad? I don't know. But your main, your first ever, highest higher self. That's your main soul signature. What happens is that main soul will fractal down over time. I'm fortunate enough to know who I am, where I come from, quite a few of my past lives. And what happens is your main soul signature is going to say, right, we're going to play a game now. We're going to go to Earth because this is how I see it. It's like a game to them. Do you know what I mean? Because they're way too busy. Your main soul signature is way too busy doing other awesome stuff. So they basically say, right, we're going to send Emma to Earth because you've had a few past lives that she needs to put right and sort her shit out. This is what they do. And they send me. They take a fractal of my main soul and they create me. I'm still my main soul. I have memories, I have visions, I have feelings. I still have certain amount of information from my main soul. But I am a fractal, and it's a collaboration of different parts of me from past lives throughout time. And it was dependent on what I chose to do in this lifetime. It's to do with soul contracts, karma, which is another story for another day because it's huge. But I was created as a fractal of my main soul because I have some of that knowledge and gifts. But I've also incorporated other fractals of other past lives. And it's a collaboration. I'm a mix of things I was in past lives. I hope I'm making sense. It makes sense to me, but to try and verbalize, to try and put it across in a way that won't confuse people. I'm basically bits of me throughout time. Certain bits have been taken out and right, we're going to give her this memory, we're going to give her that gift because of what I needed to do here at this moment in time. So I'm a fractal, but I'm still whole. I still am me. I've got my own personality. I'm nothing like any of my other past lives, not at all. Apparently, I chose to be really excitable, really annoying, and a bit thick, if I'm honest. But don't underestimate the power of stupid. No, Joanne is fine, because I'm not offended by thick. I'm not, super brainy. I'm not. But I am me. I have my own personality. Oh, please don't give me the look. I am me. I'm my own personality with just other bits of me added into the mix. I hope that makes sense. So that's my understanding of a soul. Do anybody want to help a sister out here and give their visions? Go on, Joanne. Go on. Don't
Can
give me a
I
route,
share the
please.
screen and show, like, I've got a picture interpretation of how I see that. It's just a visual might help people as well.
Absolutely,
Are
yeah.
you okay if I do that, darling? Right, let me go
Absolutely. See, I can't do this technical stuff.
because this is just the simplest thing that I could do here right now. It's so easy. Okay, ease and grace. Right. So over on, I'll have to move that over there. I don't know how else to get up. So this is kind of how I see it, Emma. Okay, but I'm gonna go back the way. So this is our where we are right now. So you're here. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So you're here, and this is representative of the soul stream. Okay. So the soul stream for me is every kind of fractal that you've spoke about, Emma. Every piece of that soul. So how I see it is I see creator, okay, and then there is the God spark, I suppose, which creates a monad. Now there isn't just one monad. I don't know how many monads there are. There could be billions as far as I'm aware. But this is basically like what I would say is what you said, the first creation, where your main soul signature would be within this monadic presence, Emma. From there, the monad then splits into different oversouls. So again, there isn't just one oversoul comes from this monadic presence. There are loads, and this could be something to do with a 144, but I'm not 100% sure. Right? I'd love to hear other people's view on this. So then we split into oversouls, okay, but we're still all this. So we fractal into oversouls, but then our oversoul fractals, okay, into these pieces, and then the fractals fractal. And this is all the different parts of who we are through all space, time, and dimension. And to add to that, I also have the belief that with every decision we have within our existence, part of us creates every single choice that you can have with regards to that. So then it splits off into all them. So for the human mind to really understand this, this is the simplest form that I could put it in for me to understand. So I don't know if that resonates with you, Emma, but that's kind of certainly how I was shown it by my team.
That's absolutely perfect. That's a brilliant explanation, because you know what I'm like. I don't use the terminology this in the books because I just speak what I see, and it is really hard to verbalize it, but that diagram is spot on. And like you said, I also believe the same. There's certain points in our life where we fractal and go down a different route. And every time we fractal in this life, you're going to get different soul signatures. This is just my opinion. And the reason why you get different soul signatures for each time you fractal in this life, the way I was shown, it's like a timestamp. And it's easier for me to see the correct soul piece, because there'd have got to be something that sets you apart from your main soul signature. Because when we're here, we can have millions of different soul signatures, but it's just a timestamp, so that when you go back home, you know, it's like a record, a log, and you sit down and you were assessed over what you've done, and they will pull up these different soul signature pieces. It's just like, so they can locate you at a certain point in time, so that people can help at a certain point in time. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Emma, sorry, I don't think you've seen Dan. Dan, you had your hand up. Do you have a question there? There's also a question in the chat about that. If I
Oh,
may
right, okay.
After Dan's asked his question.
Yeah, it wasn't a question. It was just I found a beautiful picture of a fractal, just in case audience members have never seen a, you know, like a mathematically generated fractal. So if I share my screen, can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
from the mathematical perspective, but it totally follows this idea that you were saying, where every piece is self-similar but different. No
Yes.
one piece is the same, but you can see overall there's this repeating pattern, but within it there's this beautiful uniqueness and evolution depending on where you look. So just thought I would share a little.
Oh, that's lovely. I like that. Colors and swirly things. Oh, I love colors and swirly things. Thank you so much.
All right.
Was there a question, did you say, Joanne?
Yeah, so we have a question from, just in case anybody's watching this later on, this is streaming first live within my Patreon community, just in case anybody thinks it's live and then they put questions in, because we're going to be sharing this to everybody's subsequent channels. So there's a question here from Ashley. Do we carry the same fractals in each incarnation?
No. No. For I got major goosebumps. No. For me, my belief is the same fractal will never come here more than once, because when we come here, it's for our soul expansion. It's to do with the lessons, the things that you want to achieve in a certain life. So it wouldn't make sense to send an exact fractal. That just wouldn't happen. In my opinion, it's bits of everything, because it's depending on the lessons that you want to learn. Because our souls come here to expand, to learn, to put things right, to redo lessons from karma and everything else. So it's going to be a collaboration based on your past lives, based on your karmic debt that needs to be repaid. There's going to be bits of your fractals, certain bits, to form a new one. So yeah, my answer to that is I don't believe that, no, that wouldn't happen, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I hope that answered that. Right, so next on my list, what causes soul loss? Right,
Sorry,
so
I'm just going to interject a little second. What do you mean by soul loss? Because if I was watching this, I wouldn't know what that meant.
Right, so I believe that everyone on this planet is not completely whole, because if your soul was whole, you wouldn't have any lessons to learn. You wouldn't experience anything new. So there would be no point in you coming here. Soul loss is, the only way I can describe it is when you feel incomplete. When we come here, we are wiped clean. So we have no knowledge of who we are. We have no knowledge of anything for the majority of people. You know, a lot of our memories are wiped because it's a game, and you're meant to discover these things for yourself. When you have a higher awareness, at a higher consciousness, you begin to see and feel things. You notice everything, signals, signs. But soul loss is parts of you that are missing when you come here, because you come here to reclaim those.
Okay, so I'm going to ask another question then.
Right.
How does that happen?
How does it happen? Right, soul loss. It can be a multitude of things, especially if we're children. Again, I'm just talking on the earth plane, nowhere else, just the earth plane when we come here. When we are children, we can lose soul pieces easily because we're not of an understanding of certain situations in life, because we're still learning. So you could lose a soul piece just by a pet being hurt. You could lose a soul piece, you know, if you had a fear of clowns and you were a child, that would be so traumatic to that child. A soul piece, it would fractal and it would go home. And the reason it does that is to actually protect us from that intense trauma feeling of anguish, anything that makes you feel really uncomfortable. We don't even know what's happening. It'll just happen. But this soul piece will be so scared and frightened. And if you can imagine that feeling when you've been in a situation where, you know, you feel that desperation and like, oh my God, your soul piece will up and go and it will go home. Now that's another massive subject, but it'll go home. It's purely to protect us, because if it stayed, it would overwhelm him. I mean, we all know what it's like when we lose a loved one. The grief, it can be overwhelming. But the soul will fractal and it'll go home. And it is it's an amazing design, because it'll take some of the pain, anguish, despair, sadness, depression, whatever it is. It'll take a chunk of that and it'll go home. And it will not return on its own until you've processed those emotions, you've processed those feelings, and then it'll come back automatically in this life. If you're aware enough to see cycles, lessons that I'm pretty sure most of us have had throughout our lives in one way or another, toxic cycles, the chances are you've lost soul pieces. And until you make a conscious choice or decision to make a change regarding that situation, it won't come back, because it's not going to come back and bring all that trauma back to you. It just won't. And in my opinion, is really wrong to force soul pieces back. That's something I will never do. I will never force a soul piece back.
Can I ask Emma if anybody here that we're speaking to has had any experience of that? Has anybody got any, you know, because a few people do some work in this area. If anybody, is it okay to ask for people to share?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just for their experience, so people can get an example of what that might look like.
Yes, brilliant. Did Dan put his hand up? I think Dan put his hand up. Yay.
Are we unmuted?
No.
Can you unmute?
Done.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, just I mean, personally, yes, I've experienced some soul loss myself, but I probably would like to share a very quick story about you know, fellow students on my Alexander technique course, because many people who are drawn to learning energy healing and Alexander technique have had some kind of soul loss in their lives in general. And by doing the practice, the meditative practice, it can help to reintegrate those emotions, heal the trauma, and then the soul pieces will come back. Physical symptoms that I've observed as emotions are being processed and soul pieces come back could be anything from shaking. It could be, you know, people feel withdrawn, they don't want to talk, or they have to go off and sleep for 20 minutes and they don't know why. there are all sorts of physical symptoms that happen when those emotions are eventually, when you take the choice to take actions to process those emotions, or when you are kind of gifted with the environment where those emotions can be processed, then the soul will come back, that piece will come back. And the person will often come out of that almost like they've been in a trance and they don't recognize themselves and they're a bit disoriented. And yeah, I remember some of my classmates, they sometimes just didn't want to come into class for a whole week because they were just floored by the whole process of the soul. As we're describing it, the soul piece coming back and being reintegrated. It's quite a process.
Yeah.
My personal.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that resonates. Thank you so much for that. I can only see Joanne, Dan, and Thomas, so I don't know if Kerry or
Okay, yeah,
Taylor
Kerry,
wants.
yeah, I think everybody
say
wants to
anything.
share. So we'll go to Kerry.
Yeah, I had an amazing experience with the beautiful Joanne on our trip to Edinburgh. And what had happened previously is that I had a dream 2 years prior, and I was in Edinburgh. I was on the Royal Mile, and there was certain things that I could remember from this dream that were really important. So we ended up in Edinburgh, and we were on the Royal Mile, and we were walking back, and I'm like, something feels really familiar. Like I couldn't get my head around it, and I knew it was connected to my mum, because in the dream 2 years prior, I was trying to get to my mum, but in between that dream, my mum passed away. So, in like on this earth plane, in this life sort of thing. So I knew it was a connection to my mum, and there was a soul piece that I needed to collect within that Royal Mile. So we spent, I don't know, how long was it? I was like, what is it? What is it? I was touching walls. I was like, what is it? I was hugging walls. I was like sitting with trees. I was looking at I don't know, the slabs on the ground, and I was like, what is it? What is it? I just couldn't get it. And it wasn't until we went into this little pub sort of area, and it all started to fall into place. And sorry if I start crying. Sorry.
Oh,
You're
love
good,
you.
beautiful. You're good. By the way, can I just say we didn't go to the pub to get drunk? We were.
No, we didn't.
Kerry had been walking about, and I refused to help her. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna follow her. I'm just gonna hold space for her. And I was like, let's go. Why don't we go and get like a drink of lemonade or something? So then we went into, and it was a big old toll booth, wasn't it, Kerry? It was a big, really, really ancient
And
toll.
it was mental, and like everything that was on the toll booth, it was in my dream, and the dream was showing me that there was the woolen mill. There was like this woolen mill, this clothes shop with all the like special Edinburgh sort of wool, and I was like, what is this? And I could just feel this massive embrace from my mum. And I don't know if it was the trauma and the grief from losing her the way we did, or I don't know, it was just so intense, and it still makes me well up now, just even thinking about it, because it was just so powerful, and it was like, whoa. And I don't know, I think I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And it's just, you can't even, there's no words that can even describe that feeling when you retrieve that. But it was like a connection that my mum's soul and my soul had in past lives. And it was like this healing of that connection. But, what I was going to ask you was that you mentioned to myself, how you're fractals and it goes back to your monad to protect yourself. And we had a conversation not that long ago, and you said that there was someone that had my soul piece, that had a part of my soul. So I would like to ask you, how does that work without causing confusion? If we've got soul pieces that go back to our monad, how do people have our soul pieces? How does that work? Is it like a trauma bond or something along those lines?
So when we lose a soul piece, it doesn't go to your monad.
Okay.
These soul pieces have free will and they have choices. This is just my opinion, and this is what I see and feel. They go to wherever they need to be because they can live independently from you. They can be doing other things. They can be helping other souls, but they don't go back to the main monad. I can't get used to these words. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion, because souls, they're not static. They don't stand still. They're always wanting to do something to help others. So like I said, that's a conversation for another time maybe, but they go to where they need it and they have a choice of what they want to do. So they live independently from you. It's still you, but they can still choose to do whatever. They don't stand still. They're not just sat there waiting, you know, oh, she's going to sort it out. They do other things. 'Cause that's how
So-
super intelligent soul pieces are.
So when you said about the child, is it only then in childhood that happens, that it would go straight back to the monadic presence?
No, it doesn't.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Right, children are slightly different, but again, it doesn't really matter the age, but they go to where they choose to go because they have free will. They're not going to go straight back to your monad and just sit there and do whatever your main monad is doing, because there's so many fractals of you and they're all doing, this is getting confusing for people I know, but they're all doing different things. It survives and it lives independently of you, but it's still you.
Okay.
A lot of the pieces that I see actually help others. You know, as they waiting to come back in, they sat there with others, sharing their experiences of what they have done and helping them on their soul expansion. So that they, in my opinion, they don't just go and sit and stay static. They busy. They working because that's what they hunger for. They want to expand. They want to help, because infinity is a long time, and they don't just go somewhere and sit there and don't do anything. Don't work for me anyway. That's what it's like for me. What was the other question?
Sorry,
Kerry
I'm
asked?
interrupting again, Emma. Did Taylor, you wanted to share an experience? Yeah.
Kerry, did you want to add anything? Are you sure?
Oh, the soul theft. Oh, I'll explain that after you've spoken,
No,
Taylor.
I think
No,
actually
go on, it's fine.
it might mirror, so maybe there might be a bridge in some way too. Actually, Emma, you gave me huge clarity on something that actually might have happened to me last year. And the one thing I'll say about losing a soul piece of yourself or trauma, or I'm wondering too, Emma, my question would be specifically for childhood memories and those people who have, you know, had traumas and they have the blank memories and things like that. Is that a protection method for that soul fractal, like you said, to return? So this would be a protection for them, for children, because of maybe trauma they experienced or something like that.
I got goosebumps. My understanding is when we have periods of memory loss or forgetfulness, that is our conscious decision here to totally block that situation out. We make a conscious decision. Oh, I don't want to think of that. And you kind of disassociate yourself from that. And it might be 50, 60 years before it'll come back to you at some point. But it will always come back because that's your soul speaking to you and saying, can you please heal this? Because I want to come back. You know, something will trigger eventually that memory that you repressed. It will come up, because that would have been one of the reasons why you came here, is to experience that and to change how you respond or react to that situation, especially if you've gone through it in a previous lifetime. because you want to make a difference. You want to experience a different way of dealing with it. So when we have gaps in memory, to me, that is our decision. Because I've had times where I've sat here and I've had a memory from 30 years ago. And I'm like, can't even remember that. But it'll just come out of the blue from nowhere. And I instantly know, right, I've got to fix that. I've got to put it right, because it comes up for a reason. And your soul will actually speak to you. I mean, any thought that comes in, any feeling, that's your soul saying, you know, can you fix me? Can you sort me out? Because I just want to come home. And they will. Once you've dealt with it, they'll fly back in. But we do tend to lose a lot as children. And again, it's just part of the game. I call it a game because that's what I see it as. It's just, if you can look at it as a game, it doesn't seem so traumatic, because you can understand and appreciate that it's just your soul learning. It's making a different choice. And it's about that expansion, that soul expansion, really tuning into who you are and feeling good enough within yourself to be able to manage, you know, the depression or the grief, whatever it may be, to totally manage that and come out the other side, and you're fine with it, you're good with it, you feel it. And that soul piece will just fly back in. It's automatic. It's boo. You know, there is healing, you know, an acknowledgement to those situations that need to be processed by yourself.
Yeah.
Because nobody can do these things for you. It has to come from you. Because that's why we came. It would be too easy if everybody could fix everybody else, but it's the same for everyone on this planet. We have to do the work ourselves. Because nobody is coming to save us. We are here to save ourselves.
Oh, you're
We're in control.
kidding. Nobody told me.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, what? What am I doing? I'm like,
Yeah. But yeah, I hope I've explained that. It's really hard to talk about it because it's just feelings for me, and it's normal, it's natural, but to try and explain is weird.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
sorry, I know that
Thank
Emma
you.
can't see Taylor, so this is why I'm kind of mediating. Taylor, did you want to ask the question, or did you want to share? Did you want to share your experience?
I'll just affirm, not that that is ever necessary, but when I went through whatever I needed to go through for a soul piece leaving so that I could get through what I needed to go through, the best way to describe it was complete detachment and autopilot. It is like you are just walking, eating, drinking your coffee, and you're not living. It's like being half in, half out of your body. And when I made that conscious decision to ask Joanne, when I made that conscious decision to ask Joanne for help, one, that started the trajectory because I knew I needed help. Two, taking initiative and realizing I have to step out of this. I have to step in. When that soul piece returned to me, I didn't cry for 3 months, and I'm a very emotional person. Like, I feel everything. So everything comes through me through emotion. And when that came back to me, she's absolutely, that feeling of it returning is like a magnet. Like, it magnetically came back to me when I accepted that. I was in the bathtub. I remember, like, there's a memory of crying. I cried for like 3 days. My husband had to brush my hair. Like, it was like being a child again. Like, you know, like, you didn't realize you were missing something because you're so on autopilot, you know? And like, it changes your life. Like, I had him, but it was so beautiful because I have that lesson, right? So I see this, and now I can put it into other things in my life. Oh, this is what I need to do whenever I go into autopilot, or I try and escape, or I get too into detachment versus neutrality. It's all about balancing it and using those tools. But yeah, it is like a magnet, and it rushes you. And once you make that conscious decision to either ask for help or take that initiative within yourself. And I had to do a combo of both because that's what I needed. So yeah, I would just say yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much
Oh.
for sharing that, darling.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so basically soul loss is anything that is traumatic to you, where you feel in danger. It's going to be a trauma, and your trauma is not going to be the same as my trauma, because I'm not afraid of clowns. I've got no fears anymore. I just don't. Yeah, so our traumas are going to be completely different. What might be really traumatic for you might not even bother me at all in the slightest. It's all different, and it is dependent on what you wish to learn when you come here. Because that's the whole point. It's the life game, the life experience. Right, I'm going to go back to Kerry now. Oh, go on, Joanne. Go on. Go on.
Sorry, Thomas, did you want to share an experience?
Yes, thank you. It is very layered and multifaceted, and it can be quite confusing and complex, because often when we think of these events, traumatic event, we think of those events like this is what happens in the timeline that we are in right now, in the here and now moment. But if you go back to other timelines, maybe call it lifetimes, it is fragments that we have lost in those lifetimes, and we are bringing them back in the present moment. And that can be very often linked to to an understanding that we don't really know what it is, what's happening. We don't really understand that there was any traumatic event, because it goes back different, it has happened in a different timeline, but we are still experiencing the repercussions of it. And then, for example, in a healing session, we can bring those elements back, and then it's like the light bulbs basically go up and you start to understand, and that will help you to tap into that knowing from the past and bring that experience back into here. On a practical level, I've never really, I don't think I've publicly shared this with anybody, but I grew up in the southwest of Germany, and when I was young, I always had this very, very strong desire. I need to go to the south of Germany, to Munich, to visit the castles of King Ludwig. It was just such a very strong kind of desire to go and do that. And it took maybe 18, 20 years into my life until this actually happened. And there were two events. I was there with my ex-wife at the time, and we were visiting the castle. There was a whole story around it. I felt like the strong urge, I have to go, I need to do it, and I don't know why. There was a big storm in the mountains, and they were trying to cut off any tourists to go to the castle. And when we arrived, it was like above the castle, the rainbow, the sky opened up, the rainbow showed, and I said to Crystal, I don't care what's going on. I am going up. I need to figure out what was going on. Anyway, we took the last tour through the castle. We were there in one room, and I said to her, in the next room, this and this and this is going to be what you're going to see, and this is what's going to be like. And then she said, how do you know? I said, I don't know, but I just know. And then we went into that room. This happened. And then we went into a cave. So basically, the way I see it, this being has had, was a very advanced kind of being in his own way. Ahead of time, he built this artificial waterfall within a cave, the first artificial waterfall that was built at the late 19th century, and the stage in the cave. And we were visiting the cave, and I went in this cave and I started crying and crying. And Crystal said, what's going on? I said, I don't know what's going on. I just can't help it. I need you all to leave because there's tours. And I said, you leave with this tour and I'm going to hide in this cave. I need to sit down and meditate briefly what is really going on. So I did that. There were a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes that I was on my own. And I had this kind of flashback experience. It was like flashes of images of the work that I did during this particular timeline that I was just tapping into by actually going in that space. So basically working there as an advisor on astrology, as an advisor on health, natural health, and then going back through the history books, that aspect of myself existed already in a history book, but I was working undercover. In a sense, in that timeline, undercover, because it wasn't meant to be known that the king was working,
Goosebumps.
having had that experience. I did not understand what was going on until years later, fully. But what had happened was, by me being there, having had that fragment of myself, recognize myself in this timeline, has triggered a chain reaction to open the knowledge system of tapping deeper into Vedic astrology. It has opened the understanding of Ayurveda, because this is where I actually came from. And the paradox of this is, and for most of you here on the screen, you know my background. Joanne, you know probably what I'm talking about. This reality right here, what happened is I got involved with the families, the royal families within this lifetime. So that fractal has helped me in a chain reaction to uncover knowledge that was there, and that I'm still using in this timeline and this reality. So, and that's the beauty of it. It doesn't necessarily always need to be in a traumatic situation. It can be very joyful, euphoric moment where that leads to almost an activation of a knowing that piece of the puzzle needs to be completed, and it just happens when you follow those instincts. Sorry, I just keep on rattling, but I wanted to share that.
Oh, that's lovely. I had goosebumps with that. That makes so much sense. For me, I think it's probably because of who I am and the work I do. I only see soul pieces that need to come back from a traumatic experience. I only see the bad, and that's why I'm here. I see the bad. I used to think it was a curse, and I can remember crying to Joanne and saying, "Oh my God, why can't I see anything nice?" But I am here to see the bad. So I only usually pick up on the bad, something traumatic, something horrible. But you're completely right. Past lives for me are kind of different, because I don't know how people who can't see past lives would actually know that they've got soul pieces missing from their past lives. I can only speak for me, and the past lives I've been shown have nothing to do with what I'm here to do. I mean, I'll use an example. I've never killed anybody in this life. I've done stupid shit in past lives, but the stupid shit, I'm sorry for swearing, because anyway, that's the point in time where I got a lot of my gifts from. I misused a lot of gifts, we're talking thousands of years ago, and I did a lot of bad shit. And it's only now I'm putting that right, because obviously they thought, or they knew I was going to be at a level where I could understand and process a past life. And that was really hard for me and uncomfortable. I remember seeing my first one and these atrocious, shitty things I was doing, and I was like, no, that can't be me. And I can remember saying to Joanne, why would I do that? Why would I do that? And Joanne explained, well, that's where we learn our greatest lessons from. That's where we gain most of our awesome gifts from. because we may have used it for bad in the past, but now we're using it for good. And when I see my past lives, they few and far between. You know, I don't get special anything just because I do what I do. I'm the same as everybody else. I only get shown past lives at a certain point in time to retrieve my soul piece and put things right. So I'm hoping that makes sense, because for me it's natural to look at a person and I will see your past life, or I will see who you are. And it's a split second, and that's with everybody. It's something I don't ask for. It's something I can't switch off. It's just that knowing, because that's who I am, and I need to be that way because of the work I do, if that makes sense. But for people that can't see a past life, I don't know how they would know. I would think that you've got to have like a certain level of awareness, or something might happen that will trigger an old memory of a past life.
Taylor wants to add something.
I don't know.
Emma, I just
Right.
there.
Yeah, Emma, since you're a seer and you automatically see that, you know, that's your natural state. That's how you are. But for me, I'm a feeler. So following that feeling that Tomaz had, or like Kerry had, where you had to be there, like, why do I have to be there? And that feeling and that emotion that comes with that, I think that's how people can know without, you know, without seeing too. But on top of it, I really like what you said, that everything is unique to them too. I love that you said that even with their traumas, it's unique to you. Something that's traumatic to me is probably not traumatic to, you know, you guys, and that's absolutely beautiful too. But I would just say, like, that feeling and that perfect timing of knowing you have to follow those feelings and those breadcrumbs, that's how those who don't see like you, maybe that's how they can navigate finding their little pieces of themselves, even though they're whole. But, you know, like you said, the game. Yeah.
That's beautifully put, because I'm learning as much as everybody else. You know, people don't tend to talk about what they see, what they do, what they feel. And I'm always interested, because I still assume that everybody's like me. You know, that's my human brain. I assume that everybody is like me. Everybody hears voices, see things, and that's not the case. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. That is so cool. And that's what makes us different. We're all going to experience different things and feel different things, even though we're all like so much alike, you wouldn't believe. We are still all completely different because of our past lives and our soul experience. I think, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Emma, I know we could like talk all day. I think we might have to do a part 2 of SoulPieces, because I think I feel we've really only scratched the surface with this. And I think because we have you know, beautiful people on this within the circle, all of us have these things to share within these spaces. So I'm wondering if what we can do just now, Emma, is just go through some of the questions that's maybe come up in the chat.
Yeah.
And then we can round this up. See what I did there? Circle, round it up. Did you see that?
Yay,
I like that, Dan.
dun,
Like that.
dun, dun, dun.
And then we can. So our plan, as a sixth is to every month have somebody else host a topic, so that we all have a turn. But I really feel that this is something that we should come back to also, because you guys feel that as well, because I feel that we really only have scratched the surface. I'm going to go through some of the questions then, if that's okay. I'm just doing that because I know Emma can't see the chat. So did I ask this? Okay, what should we do with the knowledge of a specific fractal? For example, if we have an angel fractal, should we be trying to connect with it to understand what we're meant to do?
you can connect to anything, absolutely anything. And not even your fractal. Again, I can only speak for me. When you're at a certain consciousness, you can connect to anything, anybody, gods, deities, ascended masters, millions of versions of you, fractals. There's no limitation. You are literally connected to everything. So I would just say, just, you know, sit in meditation if you need to, or whatever works for you, and set that intention to communicate with your angel aspect, and it will. When you're open, it'll just communicate with you, and you might think it's your own voice. You might feel like you're talking to yourself, or, you know, however it is for you, because we're all different. But yeah, just flow with it and do it. Yeah, talk to them.
Thank you, Emma. Anybody else want to add anything there? No? Okay, so we kind of covered this, kind of didn't. This was a bit like your question, Kerry. So can soul pieces be robbed or captured?
Yes. Yes. And I am going through half of what I've written down. Yes, we can give soul pieces unknowingly, and we can have soul pieces taken from us unknowingly. The best thing I can think of is, imagine you're going through a divorce. Let's use something easy to understand. If you're going through a divorce and your husband doesn't want that divorce, he can take a soul piece from you which ties you to him. And it could be because if you are open and you're vulnerable, you will allow that soul piece to go.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Can they just take it without your consent somehow? Like, surely that has to be some kind of soul agreement.
It can be a soul agreement, but it's usually when you give your power away, when you're at a vulnerable position in time. So if you're in an abusive relationship, you're vulnerable. Any kind of abuse, you're vulnerable. And you don't even know that you're doing it. But it's that longing that you might love a certain person, but they're treating you like shit. You want to keep that person and you want them to change. You can give them a piece of your soul, or they can take. I hope I'm explaining that right, but it's a real thing. It happens.
I don't want anybody to have any fear with regards to that.
Oh, no, there's
Emma,
no.
So I'm just like from where I am, I see that as something that would have already been contracted, because your soul will have agreed for that to be done, so that most likely somewhere along the line you can then learn that mistake, let's not call it mistake, I don't like the word mistakes. You can learn that lesson so that piece can come back to you. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. That is spot on, because when your soul feels uncomfortable, it will just up and go. Or if you're vulnerable and you've given your power away to a person, they can literally take a soul piece. And that's a huge conversation again, but it is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the game. And when you realize that, right, this is not serving me, I'm feeling crap, you know, this situation I've been going on in a cycle for the last 40 years. When you make a change and you see it for what it is, when you see that situation from outside the box, because it's quite hard when you're in that, you know, time, your soul piece will come back. And that's just the name of the game. It's all about just learning, experience. So there's nothing, don't be thinking, oh my God, somebody's going to take my soul piece. No, it has to be, it's usually intimate. It's an intimate love. It's like a love-hate connection. There's a fine line. But it's experience, it's learning.
I've got a question. So let me think about how to word it. Would you say then, if in a lifetime where you've experienced this, just the same example to make it simple, right? With a person, could perhaps the reason for them having piece of your soul piece be because there's going to be a reincarnation process whereby you've agreed to perhaps flip the script, and it keeps you connected somehow to be able to pull you back together in the following lifetime. This is just kind of what I'm seeing. Almost like threads of connection. So, you know, you can have soul connection with somebody. Is that soul connection because they have a piece of your soul? Is that soul connection because, you know, you're from the same kind of monadic presence? Like, that's got to be part of it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know this to be true because when I see past lives, there's usually, more often than not, somebody has got your soul piece or you've taken somebody else's. And that's a different conversation again, because you've actually got to negotiate those soul pieces to come back. You can't just take it off the person that have got it. That would be like, oh no.
They stole it from me. I'm stealing.
Yeah, but that's really detrimental. Again, that's, you've got to negotiate in certain different things you've got to do. But yeah, it can stem from past lives, and it might not even be from your last 5 past lives. This could be from an ancient past life. But it may be only now at this moment in time you're ready to face that and to experience that. So it doesn't have to be from your very last past life. It can span over, you know, generations. That makes sense.
Thank you, Emma. I think there's only one more question, and then there's a little comment, pardon me, that I'd like to read. So, where is it? Can you lose part? Can you lose a part? So can you lose a soul piece when you're in the womb?
You can, but it's my understanding when there's a fetus, my understanding is the soul doesn't stay there. Like I said, they're very busy. They like to do other things. So they're going to come in and out when it's in the mother's womb. But you can actually have an unborn soul fractal within you if you miscarriage, because that soul has come in at the time of birth. And I major goosebumps. My understanding is sometimes souls change their mind. They like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. I'm just going to go back home. And again, you would have written this in your soul contract. How do you deal with that loss? Because that's huge. You would have wanted to experience that at some point. There would have been an agreement with, you know, the unborn soul. So that's what I would say on that. I don't believe that souls are there all the time. You don't feel babies move all the time. They kind of pop in and out. That's my understanding. You know?
Anybody got anything they'd like to add to that? Taylor, maybe?
I'll just, I was carrying, I don't remember this, Joanne, this was trippy. I was carrying a soul fractal of a sister that was unborn. I was carrying it. So I think that the fact is that, and not even a fact because we're open and expansive, but the part of this is, I think I almost think we need a second one, because I also have questions about higher dimensional beings, fractaling and things like that. So yes, I think there's a lot of complexity and layers to this, but yeah, that's all I'm saying is, I think that, Emma, that just resonated with me. That's all. I'm just going to affirm that resonated with me, I guess.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's such a massive subject, and I could bang on for hours and hours and hours. And even though I know I don't explain it properly, but
You
know
do
what
a
I mean?
great
It's
job
just
explaining it,
plain
Emma.
me, you know, because it's just me, shiny things and
Souls.
souls.
I would like to read a comment, if I may. So, Spiritual Sunshine, or Candice Marie. Maybe when we just do the work, everything naturally falls back into place. So maybe it's not even as complicated as it seems. Would everybody like to have a little comment on that comment, just to kind of finish this up? I'll start since I'm already blethering. Yes, Candice, I do believe this is part of the ascension process, because for me, the ascension process is so many of us on this journey. I can only talk for myself, so I will. I know that for such a long time, I felt so empty. And I was like trying everything to fill the void, you know, like buying stuff and buying more stuff and, you know, lots of chocolate and cake. Also, cats, dogs, baby, friends, the husband. And nothing ever satisfied that appetite. Nothing ever actually filled that void, no matter how much I tried to stuff in it, right? However, when I started doing the work, and I think a lot of that is about loving yourself, when you start doing the work, right? I think we almost need like a video about the work, right? Like, what is the work? But as I started loving myself, and as I started looking at all the friggin', you know, stuff that I'd done within this lifetime and forgiving, I was always very good at forgiving other people. I've never really been wanting to hold a grudge, so that was very easy for me. It was very hard to forgive myself looking back for a lot of the decisions I made. And I feel that as I did that, these pieces of me that I'd fractured along my journey within this lifetime did come back. And that's what's allowed me to have the feeling of I don't have to search anymore to fill that void. Like, I was the void. It was always me that I was looking for, you know, and it's all these just different pieces that I left of myself along the way, were the choices that I made in life that I thought were the great choices at the time, right? But looking back, I'm like, well, that was questionable. That was questionable. But I learned from them all, and I wouldn't change a thing. So I just wanted to add that in there with regards. That's my tuppence worth.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I agree. It's when you do the work, when you do the healing, you know, heal thyself first. If you've got any illnesses, a lot of awakened souls, they awaken after a period of illnesses. If you were depressed, or you're upset, or you're sad, ask yourself why. There's a reason why. If you don't know what that reason is, you know, that's usually a trigger that there's a soul piece missing. But when you do the healing and you do the inner work and you see toxic cycles, you see reoccurring themes in your life that are not necessarily good, when you see those things, it just becomes a hell of a lot easier. And that's the name of the game, is just seeing the cycles, healing yourself, and just seeing yourself, your true self, how you come across to others, how you treat others. That was one of the hardest things for me, is to look at myself, all the bad things I might have done in this life, you know? And like Joanne, forgiving myself for being such an idiot, for doing stupid things, which I chose to do at that time. And that's what it's about. Forgive yourself. You've learned from that. You're not going to do that stupid shit again. You're going to move on. And it just snowballs. It becomes so much easier. And it's the life game. It's the soul expansion. And that's why we're here. It's just for our soul to learn, experience, and to be at that state of consciousness where we will know straight away. When your soul speaks to you, look, this is something wrong, or you feel ill, you will just know. You'll know, it's automatic. You'll know what to do. That's the only way I can explain it. It's just a knowing, doing the work.
Thank you, Emma. Well, we have some final words from everyone. Dan?
Yeah, I've found this so interesting, this discussion. And I wanted to thank you, Joanne, for sharing how you've had to forgive yourself, because I think that's something that I certainly am not very good at, and could potentially explore further. Let's just put it that way. I wanted to point out what I see as such an interesting paradox. You know, we're here on this channel talking to each other about the work and doing the work and healing and all of that. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we have to do the work, because there is no good, there is no bad, there is just everything. And that's the whole point of free will, I think, is you can choose to do the work or not do the work. And if you don't do the work, you'll come round in another lifetime, another fractal, and you'll be doing it until you're not doing the work again. And that's the whole game, and that's what's so fun, and so not fun, and so horrific, and so joyous. It's like, goes on forever. There is no end to this. Yeah, so I'm gonna just keep on doing work and not doing work. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Thank you for that beautiful share. So relevant. Tomaz.
Yeah, basically adding on to what Dan indicated is we can get lost in the doing, and we can get lost in looking for certain things. Oh, I need to see this, I need to wake up to this, you know, like it's not so much about doing, it's about the being. So because within the being comes the seeing, and from the seeing comes the doing. So we sometimes tried really hard to take a car in the 5th gear with the handbrake on uphill, you know, whereas we can just let it run downhill and let it take its own course and just allow it to just flow, you know. And I say that to myself because I have the tendency to forget the fun side of it. But it's getting better because we are working with our air dragon, and she has been so much fun. In any way, there's one question before I finish. We don't need to answer it now. It's been burning on my soul and I need to ask this question. We can explore later. What is the difference between soul and self? Not now, later. Big hugs.
Need some cake.
Need some cake? Did you say that? Oh, I did not unmute yourself. Oh my God, everybody heard that now.
I want cake. I want cake.
I can have cake till the 25th, and then I can't have any cake ever again. No, I can't. The difference between soul and self. Tomaz, I think that is a beautiful topic for us to share, for you to lead next time. I think you've just opened that up absolutely beautifully. Thank you, brother. I love you.
Om Shanti Shanti Om. What did I get myself into this? I didn't mention.
It's a beauty though. I love it.
But it's just such a mind F, you know, the mind F thing. I'm trying to get my head around, but anyway, thank you, John. We'll take that challenge.
Kerry, I'm only doing this, Emma, because you can't see everybody, darling.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you all for being here, and thank you for sharing your love and your truth with everyone. And I think everyone can agree that we've all taken pieces of this that are going to help us along our own soul evolution, our own soul journey. But what I will say is, this soul growth within us, when we go through this, it's not roses, it's not airs and grace, it's not unicorns, it's not bunny rabbits or rainbows all the time. There are going to be moments where it's going to get really dark and it's going to get really cloudy. And what I will say is, you've got you have you, and love you. Nothing else, no one else. Listen to you, listen to your soul. Your soul. Go inner and listen to your soul, and your soul will carry you through anything. Absolutely anything. Your soul is there, and it's capable of doing anything that's thrown at it. You're not gonna be given anything that you can't handle. So just remember that. You've got this. Keep going, keep marching on, hold you, have you, and love you. Thank you.
Ooh. Thank you,
Aw.
Kerry. Beautiful. Taylor?
Kerry just gassed me up for life. That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I think one of the things, I'm sure a lot of you guys see this too, is a lot of people come in and they're like, I want to be able to see, I want to open my third eye. And that's beautiful. And the most interesting thing that tends to come through for session is be you, be your unique self. We're comparing how Emma sees things to how I feel things, or how Joanne sees things to Kerry and Thomas and Dan. We're all beautiful and different. And that's how we get to these breadcrumbs of that feeling of Thomas, walking into the cave and knowing that's an extension of him. The other thing that always comes through in session too is like, okay, you will expand. You will expand, but can you trust you? Oh, I'm not seeing, I'm not hearing. We're sending you messages. Are you taking the time to listen? So it's really all about being the unique self in that expression, and that'll come naturally. And like Kerry said, like the things that get thrown at us for purpose, and our soul will carry us through. So I thought that was beautiful. But yeah, it's about being unique versus comparison, and trusting and listening to yourself over anything. And it will happen. You are expansive. You already are the psychic, all those things that are cheesy. But I don't know. I feel like if we just take the time to listen and look at the messages, they're already there. Like it already exists. We just have to follow it.
Beautiful, Taylor. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I love you all so much. Emma, I'm going to hand this over to you to round up, and just let me know when you want me to stop the video.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. It's been a blast. Yeah, I really feel like we could talk for years, actually, because we have so much in common, but we're also different. And what Taylor expressed, always be you. Never look up to anybody, because you are always enough. I got major goosebumps. You are always enough. You don't have to do certain things. If you read books or follow people, you're not going to be like them. Just be you, because you're always enough. And that's all I can say from my heart. People have this misconception, you've got to do things a certain way, you've got to be able to see, be able to hear. No, just be you. Always be you, because you're amazing souls. Each and every one is perfect in its own right, and you will never be tested on anything that you've not agreed to before you come here. You will always weather the storm. We always come out. There's always good after bad, because that's the law of the universe. There'll always be a good outcome after a bad situation. It's got to be that way. So just know that when you're feeling frustrated, confused, whatever, angry, sit yourself down, just breathe, and just know that the only thing that's guaranteed in this life is that everything will change. Nothing ever lasts. Just flow. Peaks and troughs and flow. And them's my words of wisdom. Just flow. Thank you so much. I love you all so much. And to everybody watching, I hope you've taken maybe something to think about. You don't have to resonate with you. But yeah, I just wanted to give my experiences. And I've learned so much from you guys as well. So thank you. I love you all.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to pop links to everybody's details, how you can get in touch with everybody within the descriptions of this. So it'll all be there. Thanks everybody for being here. We're gonna hang up now.
Bye.